What's happening, everybody? Got a killer drummer for today's episode, which is a continuation of the ongoing New Orleans drummer series of the Crash Bang Boom Drumming Podcast. And that drummer would be Doug Belote, who could presently be seen touring with Nashville great Jerry Douglas. He's also played with other slide guitar monsters such as Derek Trucks Sonny Landreth, which was certainly cool talking to him about the experience of playing with some of the aforementioned slide players. And for those of you that may not know, I'm an absolute lover of all things slide guitar. That shit is my spirit animal. But as for Doug, I first became aware of him seeing him sitting in and playing various funk gigs around New Orleans, and was always just pretty blown away by his playing and just thought he was just a killer drummer in general. So it was fun rapping with him, and we were able to talk about how a hotel gig for truckers and prostitutes led to a pretty amazing experience in moving to New York. I also got Doug's side of the story about studying with Ricky Sebastian when he moved to New York. So if you haven't listened to the previous episode with Ricky Sebastian, check it out. Ricky, Doug, and myself all got into a rant about the contrast in cultures of New Orleans and New York, which was pretty funny. But Doug and I also talk about an electric accident that nearly cost him his career, which was super scary. And we get to talk about a much overdue documentary that he's been working on New Orleans drummers that influenced him and are just influential, period, and incredible players at that. Entitled Street Beat, Drumming Below Sea Level. So be on the lookout for that early next year. Definitely excited about that, and like I said, much overdue. Shout out to my sponsor, New Orleans Record Press. If you're looking at putting out vinyl for your project, check out NewOrleansRecordPress.com for the real-time quote generator, packaging, coloring, mastering options, and more. In addition to being the first independently owned and operated full-scale, state-of-the-art record pressing facility in New Orleans, they're just good people doing great work. You know what I'm saying? So check them out and tell them Crash Bang Boom sent you. And that's NewOrleansRecordPress.com, y'all. So here we go, y'all. Doug Belote, fire down below on the bayou. I'm a rapper now, right? Crash Bang Boom.
Crowds go mad with joy.
All right, Doug Belote, what's happening, man? How you making out?
Good. Just
Yeah.
braving the rain and the heat here in the summertime in New Orleans.
It's the way it goes, man. Do you just desperately try to get out of town at times during these summers?
I actually do. I try as hard as I can.
Incorporate work into it if at all possible
Yeah.
to go somewhere else and get out of these summers?
Yeah, I was out actually the whole first half of the summer I was out, and I think I got back right at August 1st after being like in Europe and a lot of places where it was not hot.
Yeah.
And I got back here and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You
It's
have to
incredible.
acclimate again, you know?
It's incredible, man. I mean, I did it for 29 years prior to going to New York, and it's crazy. I mean, New York definitely gets pretty hot, but it's just not it's just not sustained the way that it is here. You know, like the worst day in New York, you get about 3 months of that shit here.
Right.
It's insane, man.
Yep.
But you know what? I gotta say, I'd take it over the winters.
Oh, definitely.
I'd rather be in hot ass humid bullshit than be dealing with snow and all the frigid damn weather.
Yeah, and well, my house has no insulation. You know.
Are you serious?
New Orleans, old
Yeah.
New Orleans home.
Right.
It's fine in the summertime when you got AC, but the wintertime is brutal.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, we got a good bit to talk about. I spoke yesterday with one of your old drum instructors, and we'll get to the story about you moving to New York, because that's a unique thing that I think the three of us all can reflect upon, is the contrast between New Orleans and New York and living in both places and
Right.
the whole thing. But in the meantime, man, you were saying presently you've just been doing a good bit of studio work. Tell me a little bit about, I guess, what's been going on and what you got going on, I guess, with Nashville and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I kind of do half and half, mostly in New Orleans, but I do go to Nashville to work.
Okay.
You know, sometimes once, maybe twice a month. And I have most of my touring gear and session gear up in Nashville.
Okay.
And I tour with a guy out of Nashville named Jerry Douglas, and I've been with him for about 12 years off and on. And so when I come back here, I do live gigs as well, but, you know, mostly I love staying busy, trying to stay busy doing, you know, records and,
Right.
you know, helping people co-produce projects and and then just fly out and do other stuff.
Yeah. It's amazing that you are actually busier doing probably recording than maybe even playing live, would you say?
Yeah, sometimes it happens like that, you know.
Wow.
Especially in September, it's like, I mean, there's a lot, you know, this September was really like slow, but then within the last few weeks, like some recording projects have come up. I'm leaving Monday to go record with John Popper from
Blues Traveler.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we're going to do that, I think, in Mobile, Alabama. And then I'm going to Dockside the week after with some this girl from, I think she's from Colorado named Marcel.
Okay.
She's a bass player, a great bass player and singer. She just got signed. And, yeah, just different things, you know. Just try to, you know, do TV work for, like, I've done stuff for NCIS, just Zatarans.
Right.
You know, sometimes you'll hear a commercial on TV and it's something I did maybe 10 years ago and they still using it.
That's wild, man.
You know?
Getting a lot of mileage out of it. Well, in addition to doing that stuff, man, you know, I was thinking about it. When I first started seeing you playing out, it was a few years pre-Katrina. And it was, because I lived right down the street from the Maple Leaf uptown, I would go over and see you playing with like Papa Grows Funk and doing that thing I guess when Russell Batiste wasn't on it.
Right.
And the first time I went there, I was like, oh, Russell's not playing. And then I was like, wait a minute, who's this white dude? And then I was like, oh shit, this cat can fucking play, man. This is crazy. So I actually really enjoyed it. I'd go over there and catch you anytime you were playing over there. It was awesome to see you playing over there, man.
Yeah, Russell was one of my, I call him one of my mentors growing up too, because my high school band director took me to see Russell Batiste and Terrence Higgins.
Really?
When I was in high school.
Wow.
Russell was playing with the Funky Meters.
Mm-hmm.
Even he was playing with them when Leo was still in the band.
Right.
And they came to Grant Street in Lafayette, where I grew up. And opening for them was this band called Funk House, which Terrence Higgins played for.
Wow.
So, yeah, my band director at the time, you know, I wasn't even old enough to get in. So we went there, and I heard both of these drummers play in both of these bands, and it floored me. And I was like,
I guarantee it.
And it was definitely an influence from that day on.
Wow.
And you know, of course, Terrence Higgins was, you know, killing it, and
he's incredible.
Oh yeah, he's amazing, man. And then I met Terrence, and he was real cool. And me and Terrence sat on the side stage and watched Russell Batiste. When Russell was like as thin as my finger right here, he'd take his shirt off. It was funny. He would take his shirt off, and he looked like you know, like an amazing athlete. You know, he was cut and everything. And then now he's like, you know, he gained all that weight, and you don't want to get off his couch.
Oh my God!
But he was playing so hard that night. I remember the sound lady had to nail the bass drum down.
Right.
And me and Terrence were laughing about that. You know,
that's amazing. Well, you said, I know you grew up in Lafayette. How did you end up finding the drums? How did you end up starting the drums anyway? Do you come from a musical family?
Yeah, my dad was a bass player.
Okay.
And he did more session work, and you know, he was like more of a country and western swing Cajun, you know, swamp pop type bass player. South Louisiana. It's weird. He didn't play any jazz or anything like that, complicated music, but he always had a love for it. And when I was coming up, we started playing in church, you know.
Yeah.
And he just kind of started getting me into other musics, like made me listen to jazz, like Buddy Rich or, you know, and that's how it all started when I was already playing. But when he started introducing me to, when I saw Buddy Rich play for the first time on TV, I was floored. I never saw it. I didn't know anybody can even do something like that.
Absolutely.
And Ed Shaughnessy came to Lafayette.
Nice.
And I saw him with the double bass drums and
cool.
And Louis Belson. I got to see all these people in Lafayette. And
really?
It was just a whole different thing. It was very inspiring. And it just wanted to take me to the next level. And then when I was 13, you know, around that same time, my dad had saw Johnny Vidacovich play at this festival called it's called Downtown Live. Every Friday night it would be this event, and they would have it outdoors. And so he hurried up and came back home and got me and said, "You got to come see the best drummer in the world."
Come on.
And I was like, "Who? Buddy Rich?" He goes, "No, somebody." I said, "Who?" He goes, "I don't know. Just come here."
Really?
So he came back to the house, got me, went back. You know, it was only like about a 5-minute drive from where we lived, and I went there and I saw Johnny Vidacovich play for the first time. And it was Johnny Vidacovich, playing with Irving Charles, this bass player who passed away. And it was a young John Cleary. It was like John Cleary must have been in his 20s at the time, or like early 20s. And it was John Cleary playing with Irvin Charles and Johnny Vidacovich. That was like his trio. And it floored me. I saw that, and it was a whole different thing. It was nothing like Buddy or whatever. And I saw that, and it's just like, wow. And that right then and there, I wanted to be a New Orleans drummer. I said, that's what I want to do. Because, Johnny was, the way he played that day was just amazing,
It sounds like the entire performance was probably pretty baffling and amazing, but is there anything to this day that you feel maybe he imparted onto you and maybe is in your playing, or something that you would gone after in your own playing?
It was so many things that were involved that day. Of course, when you see Johnny play, his legs cocked up, he's like almost falling off the stool or something. Right. And I don't play like that, but I still have that same emotion, when I play, or I try to feel that looseness. And it was just something I've never. I was literally sitting in my room practicing to some rock beats or something, and my dad came in, and 5 minutes later I'm watching this style of drumming I've never seen. And when I saw it, it's weird because when I saw it, my dad looked at me and goes, "You can do this?" And I was like, I know what he's doing, but I can't tell you what he's doing, but I feel it. I know, So it just kind of came natural. And then that's when I started, like, by the time I got into high school, I was really into Johnny Vidacovich.
That's amazing.
Which is crazy and I was playing at church, right?
Uh-huh.
And it was like this Pentecostal church, and this guy came in, and we were just talking, and he was talking about, I was telling him about Johnny Vidacovich, and he's like, yeah, I remember Johnny. He goes, I used to watch him play when he came to Lafayette way back in the day. And then he goes, man, you got to check out this other drummer from Lafayette. Have you ever heard of Ricky Sebastian?
Come on.
I said, no, I don't know who that is. And I was like, by this time I was like, I guess a junior or senior in high school. And he's like, man, you have got to, he goes, you've got to hear Ricky Sebastian. So he made me a copy of the Herbie Mann Opalescence record.
Oh, cool.
And that's when I heard Ricky, and I heard that style of drumming, and I was like, oh shit, what the hell is this? And then, he's telling me like, yeah, he's from Lafayette too, and he went to the same school and the same, college and stuff. And I was like, wait, how can this guy be this good come from,
Yeah.
And that totally went another direction on this. And then, that's, my whole plan was to go to North Texas, or something. Uh-huh. But then when I saw and started getting records that Ricky Sebastian was playing on, then I was like, oh man, where's this guy? New York, teaching at this school? I was like, I'm going.
That's amazing. So he told me a little bit about the story, and I love it, man. So apparently you sent him a letter saying that you were a fan of him and you had his records and whatnot, and that you were thinking about coming to New York to study with him.
Yeah, actually, the exact letter was what happened was, all I knew is that he taught at Drummers Collective, and I had 2 records that somebody burnt on a cassette tape for me,
right,
or copied on a cassette tape. And this is way before email came out.
Right, exactly.
So all I knew is that he went to Drummers Collective. So I wrote Ricky a letter, tell him like, hey, I'm thinking about going to Loyola and studying with Johnny Vidacovich, or I might try to get into North Texas, or maybe Berkeley, or what do you suggest, or blah blah blah. And then I said, man, I really admire you playing and stuff, and then I didn't even hear back from him, and then like 2 months later, two and a half months later, I get a letter in the mail, and it's Ricky.
That's amazing.
And he replied, and he says on the letter, he says, sorry for the late reply. I was on the road for 2 months.
Right.
And then he went back to Drummers Collective to teach, and I guess they gave him the letter.
Oh, my God.
And he typed a letter and sent it back to me with some recommendations of what he played on. And he says, yeah, if you go study with Johnny, tell him I recommended you. And then I started thinking about that school he went to and I was teaching at. So I went audition at Manhattan School of Music when I was, I guess, it was like 2 days before I graduated. I flew up to New York. I'd never even been in New York.
Really?
And I'd never even been on it. Believe it or not, it was my first time on an airplane.
Damn, dude.
And I didn't even know they had a bathroom on the airplane. I had to piss the whole time. and it's like I had no idea they even had a bathroom on a jet. And I know it's crazy. And I get off and finally find my way to the school, and I auditioned for John Riley. And John Riley even told me, he's like, Look, I hear that you're coming from more of a fusion background. Your reading's great. Your hands are great. I just don't think this is the right school for you because this is more about studying, Art Blakey and,
Maybe more
Max
traditional
Roach.
jazz.
In a more traditional sense and straight ahead sense. And I was into that, but I was really into like Brazilian and Cuban and fusion and, all this other stuff. And what Ricky was doing exactly. So even John, John was asking me like, who's your favorite drummers? And when I told him Johnny Vidacovich and Ricky Sebastian and Herlin Riley, he goes, all right, well, and then, he asked me to play some second line stuff and all that. And he goes, man, can I make a recommendation? He says, I recommend you, if you like Ricky so much, I recommend you go to Drummers Collective and study with Ricky,
Really?
Yeah. And so, he goes, man, I'll even recommend you over there to that school. And, so anyway, I ended up going through the advanced program, and then I finally saw Ricky play for the first time when I was in high school. He was here for the Jazz Fest, and he was playing a little gig at a restaurant with like Steve Mazikowski and Larry Seaberth and all these badass musicians. And I saw that night, and it was like, I just flipped out, And then that's where we first met, and he gave me his card and says, yeah, because he came up to me and goes, man, have we met before? I said, no, but I'm Doug. I wrote you a letter. He goes, yeah, man, all right.
Oh, my God.
So that's how all that kind of
Right.
came about. That's how my upbringing was in Lafayette.
Yeah.
And of course, growing up in Lafayette, I played primarily, black music.
Right.
Just blues, Zydeco, and funk and R&B. Because there was this guy, Little Buck Senegal, who's a black guitarist who still lives there, and that's I was playing in black churches, and so that's where my whole just outlook on drums really came from, And same thing happened to Ricky. Really, it's like we were just drawn to that music. That's what really moved me. Most of my friends were into, rock pop drumming, which I love, but it's just for some reason I just never really got into it as much as like average white American boy playing drums,
Right.
But so I started doing all that. Then when I got to New York to study, I started, sitting in on blues and R&B stuff. And when people find out you from the South, Louisiana, New Orleans or whatnot, then they always love that, especially like in the Northeast.
For
I guess
sure.
It's a different feel, but
Definitely.
But yeah, I've always just loved any kind of ethnic music, like whether it just be like Brazilian music or Cuban music, just whatever it was it always just drew me to it. It's just a feeling, it's just a feeling.
Yeah.
That's why I like Zigaboo and Russell Batiste so much.
Sure.
Like, you watch them play, and it's like, man, it's so innate inside of them.
Absolutely. Well, tell me a little bit about you actually getting to New York. What was that process? Was that not scary as hell, saying, all right, I guess I'm going to go? I mean, you're coming from Lafayette, and then you're saying, all right, I'm going to go to New York. I know it was a shock for me when I went there. I was joking with Ricky that I'd never seen so many people walk fast, like an entire city of people walking fast because they got places to go and shit to do,
Yeah, that's true.
That was a shock to me.
Oh, what I did? It's funny. It's a weird story because I got accepted to the school, and the
Drummers Collective.
Yeah, Drummers Collective. And I was still in high school this time, and I went to UL for USL at the time for 1 year. There was no drum set teacher, so I didn't stay there. But when I got in, I was working like 5 nights a week, just saving my money. And I had this like really crappy blue $500 pickup. I sold that. I sold my drums. I sold everything I owned. And I eventually got to New York. And I got there on the second day of the blizzard of 96.
Oh, wow.
Which was like, the snow was 15 feet high.
Wow.
So, in certain areas. But the crazy thing is, being from where I was from, I'd never seen like real snow. I'd never been in a snowstorm. I got there, and I just remember it was freezing, and I got to where I was living. There was no more room in the dorms, like where they had these dorms.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I had nowhere to live. Where I was living where I was playing 5 nights a week was this hotel in Lafayette, and we would play as a trio or quartet, and all these truckers and rednecks and different people would just be like at the bar,
right?
And it's one of those motels where guys were coming in and just either sleeping for the night or paying for sex. So they had all
Right.
these like hookers at the bar, you know. So when you're in a band, you kind of know the hookers and everybody else. But there was this one lady that was pimping all these other ladies out.
Really?
And she was from New York.
Really?
And she was like, she had that whatever that accent is, and she's like, she called me Junior. She goes, Junior, I hear you're going to New York. Where you gonna live? I was like, I don't know yet. She's like, and at the same time, she's like running a payphone, getting these women up and down the stairs.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy thing.
That's an amazing story though.
And she's like, asked me, she goes, where you gonna live? It's New York. I said, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out right now. She goes, well, you leave in 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll just get a hotel. She goes, you can't just do that. She goes, let me make a call. Hold on. So she gets on the payphone. She calls her cousin, and she asks her cousin. She goes, look, there's this kid here. He's moving to New York. He's a great kid. He needs a place to stay. He doesn't really know the reality of what he's going to face when he gets there.
Yeah.
So she goes, look, call Liz, my cousin. So I called her, and then Liz found her best friend that was living in the Upper East Side that happened to let me like rent like pay half the rent for her apartment or whatnot.
Right.
So and it was $300 a month, and I just get to stay on her couch,
Oh my God.
So this lady, her name was Mary, and man, she became one of the best mentors, when I got to New York. But so anyway, I finally got a place to stay. I'm paying $300 a month. I literally flew up to New York, sold everything I had, and I had $12,000 in cash on me in different pockets.
Oh my God, dude.
And I get to New York and it's freezing, and I got Chuck Taylors on. I got a fucking blue jean jacket on, no long johns, nothing. I mean, like dressed like a winter here. And I got there and I was freezing, and I got to the apartment. I'm like, and there's no there's no cell phones at the time. So finally, lady Mary comes up to the door. She's like, hey, come on in. She goes, oh my God, where's your jacket? You've been freezing out. I was like, this is my jacket. She goes, no, you can't. You need a winter jacket. You need winter boots, and the deal.
Right.
So she took me to 14th Street and bought one of those freaking Eskimo-looking jackets that everybody wears, and some snow boots, some long johns, and a hat, some gloves, and
damn.
I saw the whole 9 yards.
Hooked your naive ass up.
Man, it was. I tell you, it was. It was an experience. So I got that, and I'm glad she did, because it was freezing. And it was like that. At that time, it was like below 0 or by 14 degrees every day for like a month, because it was a blizzard, and the snow was everywhere, and so that was like the whole process.
What an introduction! Jesus.
I know it was weird. And then this lady just happened. The lady that was, what do you call it, madam or whatever, those pimping all these chicks out. She's just friends with somebody else that knew these two people, and this lady just happened to be a really good lady that helped me out.
Wow.
She just took me in, and
that's amazing.
And she showed me how to use the subway, and then she would just always cut these magazines. She'd read articles about. She loved art and artists, and she'd it'd be like in the Village Voice. She cut these art in the New York Times. She cut these articles out about like maybe Chick Corea or Herbie Hancock or just some obscure music thing, and then she'd always like cut them out and then place them on the table for when I came home to read them. And it was like it's just a lot of things. And she bought me a passport holder, and I'm like,
really?
And I'm thinking I'm never going to use this. And of course, a year later, I'm in Europe with Ernie Cato. Then I started touring a lot.
Right. So
it was kind of almost seems like a meant to be kind of situation. But
it's crazy.
All this happened from me, really playing at this hotel, motel,
with
whatever.
a bunch of rednecks, truckers, pimps, and whores.
All these, exactly. So I was basically, it's funny, people are like, what was that like? I said, man, I don't know. I was just trying to make money to leave town,
Right.
I was trying to get out of Lafayette. I wasn't trying to hook up with what they had at there. But all that played an effect of everything.
That's amazing. Well, how long were you in New York for then?
That first time I was there, I was there for about, I guess, a little over a year, and I kind of ran out of money.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't take any gigs. I was really into studying and learning.
And you were studying with Ricky the whole time?
Yeah, I was studying with Ricky, and then when Ricky would go out of town, I would study with this other guy, Kim Plainfield, who just passed away. He's a great teacher.
Nice.
So it was all those kind of Mike Clark.
Right. You got to study with Mike Clark?
Yeah, Mike.
Come on.
Mike Clark.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, all those guys. That's what I'm saying. All those guys were there, and it's funny because when I went to Manhattan School of Music to audition, I just remember John Riley just kind of cut me off right in the middle of the audition and said, "Man, you're a great student, man. He goes, I don't think your heart's into this style. He goes, the people that you really love, it's down the street at Drummers Collective. He goes,
That's
you should.
cool.
And it was the best thing he could ever told me to do because it was it was true. And I was like, man, I was like into Mike Clark. I was into like all these guys.
Absolutely.
And, everybody would just come into the collective. Steve Smith would come in and start, just practicing or jamming, and Horacio Negro Hernandez, before he was even known, once came in my practice room while I was playing and came in there and just, fucking made me look like a wimp after he got out of it. I mean, he just came in there and we started like, just kind of playing and trading off, and he couldn't barely speak English. I didn't understand a word he said, but man, he played and he made me look stupid.
Oh,
it was
wow.
great, but that was a New York introduction, New York is the best of the best of there,
It's crazy.
He'll kick your ass.
It's crazy. I mean, I'd never planned on living there, but post Katrina, I ended up there, and I've been there ever since. And it is amazing, man. I mean, on any given night, you can go see JoJo Mayer, you can go see
He's another one
Mark
who used
Juliana.
to come. JoJo used to come to
the Drummers Collective.
Drummers Collective, and I watch him rehearse with somebody, or Bill Stewart would be in there.
Right.
Just
crazy.
Yeah. And
Damn.
the crazy thing about Mark Giuliano, I met him at Snug Harbor.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I can't. Maurice Brown was playing. This is way before the storm, but
Mm-hmm.
Maurice Brown was playing, and I walked in, and I heard this drumming. I knew it wasn't nobody from New Orleans, and I'm
Right.
hearing this stuff, and I'm like, man, who the hell is this? And I go around that side wall, and I'm looking, and it's this kid. He's all hunchback, looks like
Right.
a little skinny praying mantis, playing the baddest shit I've ever heard. And I'm like, who is this?
Right.
And I met him that night, and we've been friends ever since.
That's
It's like,
amazing.
and man, he's just tearing the world on fire, man.
Yeah, he is.
He's a one of a kind, man.
New York is amazing, man. If you're looking to get inspired, if you can financially support yourself and afford to go and do all that for entertainment, there's no shortage of incredible shit going on.
Or if you really want to feel how bad you really suck, just go watch Nate Wood play.
Nate Wood is incredible. Oh my God.
Oh man,
That is
guy.
awesome, man.
He's another one that came to Snug Harbor one night and played shit I never heard nobody playing there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I need to get him on the podcast, man.
It's crazy. I'm 44 now, and I never rule out the fact of moving back to New York.
Right.
It's just this the only city in the world. It's like, man, it's just the energy there. Just anywhere you go, you see these young drummers just like playing some really hip shit, man. It's like,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's super inspiring for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess leading up to Katrina, were you in town for Katrina? How did Katrina end up affecting you?
Yeah, so I was in town, and I was playing. Remember the Bank Street Bar and Grill?
For sure.
I was playing there with the Oregon Trio, with Brian Seeger, this guitar player, and it was the night before Katrina hit, I think. And I saw we looking on TV. We were taking a break, and we're looking on TV, and it's just like, it's massive, and you just kind of know it's coming your way.
Right.
And so, the gig kind of slowed down because everybody's trying to hunker down or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm going to my house, and this is like the first hurricane. My parents were still living in Lafayette.
Right.
This is like the first hurricane that I said, I'm gonna just wait it out. I'm gonna get some water and blah blah blah.
No shit.
So I go home, and my dad calls me late night. He goes, man, your grandma's about to, pass away. Like she's not gonna make it till tomorrow afternoon. So if you want to see her, she'll probably come early in the morning, or So I said, all right. Well, I said, man, I'm wide awake now. So I no telling what I did that night to stay wide awake. But I was wide awake, and it was like 2 a.m. He called me, just happened to call me. So I said, yeah, I'm gonna come in now, man. I'm gonna come see her. So I go home. And I'm
To
too
Lafayette?
late. Yeah, no, I'm going to my house in Magazine Street. So
Okay.
I was like, man, let me just get out of here just in case, man. I didn't really think.
Strong call.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna go see my grandma for the last time or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, so I went up in my house, and at that time I was living upstairs, so I already had my drums in my car, so I was kind of like too lazy to bring them upstairs and just leave them. So I kept those in the car, and I got my some clothes, and I got my suit, because I knew we were gonna have a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm leaving, and I'm just turning everything off, threw everything out of the fridge or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of looking. I was like, maybe I should take my passport and all my, stuff that I have in a lockbox just in case.
Right.
Which I know nothing's gonna happen, but so I grab it, and I leave. I turn everything off, and I leave. And then, of course, all that happened like that next morning or night or whatever, or that next morning or daytime or.
Wow.
But it's really crazy because when I got to Lafayette, my grandma had already passed away like that morning, so I really didn't get to see her. But because of her,
absolutely,
she
you got out of town.
There. Yeah, she,
Dude, be glad you didn't stay for that. My dad lives about an hour north of New Orleans, so I just went out to his place and waited for trees to come crashing through the fucking house, which they did.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a bomb had gone off, man.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, 2 weeks before the storm hit, I moved to L.A., I went there for a week, and I knew it wasn't the place I wanted to live.
Really?
It was a cool, awesome weather. It wasn't my personality.
Yeah.
So I came all the way back.
Just in time for Katrina?
And I got back a week before Katrina, and then I left. And then so when Katrina happened, I was thinking, I was like, all right, maybe I'll just go back to L.A., give it another try, or back to New York. And then Jeff Coffin had called me. He's a sax player for Dave Matthews Band. And he says, man, you should just come to Nashville, man. Just come hang out.
Right.
Just come hang for a month or two at my place. Or I said, all right. So I got out, and I went over there, and I got to say I hated it when I first got there. Everything was just so, like, just so, to me, it was cheesy. And, just like, the accents were, not that I have a great accent being a Cajun, but you hear all the, right. And stuff. And I was just like, man, the people are nice here, but, but then it's crazy. Then one thing happened after another, and I started realizing how nice people were and how great of musicians they have there that are professional. And then the recording scene was really thriving, of course.
Right.
And that's really where I wanted to be. And which is funny because my dad always wanted me to move to Nashville.
Really?
So I went to Nashville, man, and I started playing with like Jack Pearson and all these people, and I was only gonna spend a couple months there and then probably come back here when shit got better.
Yeah.
And then Jerry Douglas gig came about, and then
been with it ever since.
Yeah, and that was like I said, I didn't know who Jerry Douglas was, and I thought it was Jerry Reed.
Right.
When I was auditioning for him, and that's a long story in itself. But then I got that gig, and then things, the first tour we did was opening for Paul Simon for 3 months.
Whoa!
So I got to sit and hang out with Steve Gadd every day. And
what?
Yeah, so
that's crazy, dude.
I know it was kind of it was crazy how things just kind of snowballed, and you have no idea what comes out through the left field. And so I stayed there for about 5 years, and then came back here after my dad passed away, and then, like I said, and that's when I hooked up with Sonny Landreth and Derek Trucks and Joe Sample and everybody. And
that's awesome.
And it was it's kind of all a blur, but but you got a network also. It's just, part of this business is not just knowing people, but it's knowing people and networking.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Sonny Landreth and Derek Trucks, two guys that are both, when I think about slide guitar players, modern slide guitar players, Jesus Christ, those two guys. That's incredible that you've played with both of them. I guess tell me a little bit about your experiences in working with them. Derek Trucks is so funny to watch because he's such a stoic character, seemingly unaffected by anything that he plays. Right. It just pours out of him, But both of those guys, wow, ridiculously, absurdly talented dudes. How was it working with those guys?
Oh, it was great. Sonny I'd been knowing since I was a kid,
right?
Because he's from Lafayette, and so it's when I left Nashville. One of the reasons I left Nashville too, I was coming back to help out my mom and deal with the house and stuff. But when I got back here, John Cleary had put a trio together with Singleton and myself, and we started touring, and it was a great trio. And then when Sonny found out I was in town, he asked me to do some dates, and so I started touring with him and John Cleary for about a year. And then Derek was putting his new band together. And you know Oteil Burbridge?
Yes, absolutely. He's
Well,
a monster. I used to go see him with Aquarium Rescue Unit.
Yeah,
That's
right,
how I originally saw him. And their drummer, Jeff Sipe, that dude was a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
To this day, he might have played one of, it might have been the most badass drum solo I've ever seen in my life.
Jeff's another one of my big influences, like Ricky Sebastian. And,
I could see it. I could definitely see Jeff in your plan. I wouldn't have thought about it until you just mentioned it, but I can see that.
Jeff and I go back. You know, he's another guy that I had to research this guy, and I had to.
He's incredible.
I mean, yeah, he's just what an amazing dude too. I mean, he's amazing. But I've always loved Susan Tedeschi's band, and I've always loved Derek Trucks' band.
Absolutely.
You know, both of them. It's just like Susan's probably my favorite female singer. You know, probably now that Aretha Franklin's gone,
right?
But you know, she's just like, I don't know, man. She just brings it, and of course Derek is just. You know, playing with Jerry Douglas, who's one of the best slide players in the world, you know, Sonny and Jack Pearson, all those guys, even though they're like 2-3 times the age of Derek, they look up to Derek, you know.
I know
they know
do.
Derek is the shit.
Right.
You know, and it's it's crazy because Oteil, he was hanging out here for Jazz Fest, and I just jokingly said, man, you know, he always knew I loved Derek and Susan's, you know,
because he was playing was he playing at the Allman Brothers at that point?
He was playing in Derek and Susan's band.
Okay.
And we were just hanging out. We played some gig here or some session. And I said, man, if ever Derek and Susan need a drummer like on this band, I said, no, none of those guys are ever going to quit.
Just threw
let
it
me
out
know.
there?
Yeah, I said, let me know. And he goes, well, man, it's funny you say that because JJ's going to play with Boz Scaggs for a little bit. And this is like when the band first started. So they didn't even know where they wanted to go with the band yet. So Derek ended up calling me like, you know, out of the blue to come play a few days to see what it was like. And the first gig I did with him was at that Eric Clapton show that you saw me on.
Yeah.
It was a crazy day because that was the first gig I had with Derek Trucks, and it was no rehearsal. He sent me the CD of the live show 4 weeks prior. So I just listened to it everything. I memorized everything. And then my last gig with Sonny Landreth was at that show. And I was already there playing with Sonny Landreth, and then that's where I got to play with Eric Clapton. And there's the video of me, Sonny, and Eric playing. That was my last time playing with Sonny. And then I played with, and that's where I started playing with Derek. And then I went out with Derek. We did like a 3-week tour or something like that. I was out for like a month with him. And then I came home. We had like 2 weeks off before we were leaving to go somewhere else. And that's when I had my hand accident. And
you showed me this gnarly scar on your hand. What happened?
Man, I came off tour and I was just kind of like bored, so I decided to clean behind the dryer. And the washer and dryer was like, you know, outside New Orleans, like in a little under awning in a little garage or whatever. Well, the knob was broken on the on and off switch, so the girl I was living with, she ordered a new one but didn't know how to change it. So I unplugged it. You know, your dad always taught you unplug something before you work on it.
Right.
So I did that, and I changed out the switch, you know, and then plugged it in, and then pressed the thing, and it worked perfect. I'm like, all right, I'm proud of myself. I fixed something. And then, so right then and there, the phone rings, and I'm like talking to somebody. So I leave the dryer, was not pushed back against the wall. And I totally forgot about the dryer. And then the girl I was living with said, she goes, hey, don't forget to go put that dryer back. I said, oh, yeah, let me go do that.
Oh, shit.
And it started raining, and I was like barefoot in just boxers. And I was like running outside to hurry up and because it was pouring out raining. And when I pushed the dryer, my hand slipped, and I grabbed the firewall with 220 voltage, and the thing was still plugged in.
Oh, fuck.
And all I know is that it threw me back or something. All I know is I was laying on the ground. The power had went like, you know, just off and on.
Oh.
And then she comes outside. She goes, man, what was that? I said, man, I just got shocked, you know. And she's like, are you okay? I said, I don't know. I said, you better stay here because I might have a heart attack.
Oh, shit.
I just kind of rubbed my face going, oh, thank God. That was weird. I'm like this, like. And then she starts screaming, and I look down, and there's blood everywhere in my hand. I look down, and my hand, it just blew open. The electricity blew it open.
Holy fuck, dude.
So I'm looking down, I see that, and I was like, the first thing I thought of, okay, I can't panic right now because you just can't do that. So So I reached in the drawer and got like a dish towel or something.
Yeah.
Like a, in a, what they teach you in Boy Scouts or whatever is to make
Tourniquet,
a tourniquet. Make a tourniquet. So you got to stop the bleeding. So I made this tourniquet and I wrapped the whole hand. I tightened it and I put my running shoes on and I ran straight to Toro. There, which was like about 3 or 4 blocks. I ran to Toro and the emergency room was like full of people. And I took the towel off and I just put blood everywhere. And I told them I cut my finger off, which I knew I didn't. But
right.
So they immediately put me in an emergency room.
Yeah.
And a surgeon came in and did all that. And
holy moly.
And the weird thing is, another weird story, that the surgeon guy that came in, it was a guitar player with long hair. He's been a surgeon for like 30 years. And he looks at me and goes, whoa, okay, got a little accident, huh? I said, yeah. He goes, all right, well, what do you do? I said, I play drums. And he goes, and he just stares at me with these big eyes like, okay, well, let's get started.
Oh, shit.
So we do, and he starts, calming me down, and he's sewing me up, and he goes, who do you play for? I said, it's probably some people you never heard of. I said, I work with Sonny Landreth, and I work with Derek Trucks, and he's like, oh, man, I'm a guitar player. I saw y'all play at Jazz Fest.
Come on.
And the whole time he's like sewing me up and he's staring at me like, man, I love Derek and I love Sonny. He's like, and I'm like, just sew me up, man.
Get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah, just sew me up. We can talk later about this. And
oh my God.
So
dude.
he, and I asked him, I said, man, am I going to be able to play again? He goes, man, it's not really my call. I don't know. He goes, I'm going to send you to an orthopedic surgeon tomorrow just to kind of look at this and assess it and see what you got to do. My hand was swollen, had 52 stitches. So,
52 stitches?
52 stitches.
God damn.
And I went home, man, and I went home and I was just like, all right, well, first of all, I'm happy to be alive.
Right.
And that's what the guy told me. He goes, look, man, be lucky you're alive. I don't know too many people that get shocked standing barefoot in water with a 220 voltage. I can say left this hospital.
Right.
For one thing. So.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, so we did that. I left and I was like, you know what? I'm alive and I was believe it or not, I came to a point where I was touring so much that I was burnt out.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind the 4 months off.
Right.
And I didn't even know if I would even play again. And it was like, and then I went to see my doctor.
Right.
He was one of my good friends. He's a guitar player, but Irene Sage, she's a singer. Her husband, Dr. Scott Conklin, was my doctor. And so he was really cool and supportive. He took the next day. He says, "No, come see me. So he takes it off and he goes, boy, you really did something here."
Oh, man.
And he's like, and I said, man, honestly, as a friend to another friend, am I going to play again? And he says, man, if you want to play again, you're going to play again. That's just the way it is. He goes, you're going to play again. We just got to get this healed up. It's going to take a while. And, of course, like after everything, like 4 months, I started playing again. And he told me one day we're just kind of sitting, having a beer at his house. And he goes, man, I'm going to be honest. When I first saw that, I didn't
think you were going to be playing again.
He goes, I knew you were a hypochondriac, and I just didn't want to. He goes, I just straight up lied to you, but hey, I didn't lie,
That's amazing.
And I had to cancel a lot of stuff. The Derek thing, and that fell apart. And it's just like, it all fell apart. But man, I kind of know who I was as a person, when I wasn't, because I was sitting there staring at the ceiling. I was losing weight because I was just got depressed for the first time in my life. I was like, man. And I started thinking, what else can I do? I have money saved. Maybe I can be a manager now.
Right.
Or something. But it's weird. I really didn't miss playing.
Really?
And then once the stitches and everything off, I started playing just quarter notes and eighth notes with a hand. Because my doctor said, look, man, just start trying to play. Just hold the drumstick. And
right.
So, man, for a month, I could barely play and I'd sit there and watch the Saints games and just
right.
And play with a practice pad. And within about a month and a half, man, I was faster in this hand than I've ever been because I went back to the basics.
Before we close it out, man, tell me a little bit about this documentary that you've been working on. It sounds really cool and certainly needed documentary with all these New Orleans drummers and everything. Yeah,
well, the story earlier about my dad taking me to see Johnny Vidacovich.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's kind of what sparked this documentary. And of course, there's a lot of drummers that have been passing away. Smokey Johnson, Bunchy Johnson, Herman Ernest.
Yeah.
Herman Ernest and Bunchy Johnson were very instrumental in helping me out here. And I used to watch them before I moved here in New Orleans.
Right.
So basically, I'm paying homage to about 25 drummers that I knew before moving here that influenced me,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like they become heroes to peers, I
Right.
guess you say. And it's everybody from, Johnny Hurlin, Ricky, Shannon Powell, Zigaboo, Russell Batiste, Jelly Bean, Stanton Moore, Carlo Nuccio,
Yeah.
Allen Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the list goes on and on. Jason Marsalis, Adonis Rose.
Right.
Everybody I knew before I got here that influenced me, and we became peers,
Yeah.
So I got all the drummers that have influenced me from here that, like I said, knew before I got here. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's a story behind meeting each of these drummers. So this documentary, basically, I'm just paying homage to all these guys, and I just feel like the whole world needs to see this. And I want to make this documentary to where the average person that has no musical sense
Still enjoy it. Sure.
still enjoy it. And but it'll be finished by the end of the year, so it'll definitely be out by next year. And
Awesome. What's the name of it?
it's called Street Beat: Drumming Below Sea Level.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited, man. I mean, there's no shortage of incredible drummers in this town as well, and very specific drummers that are very key to sculpting sort of the sound of what is New Orleans drumming and New Orleans music. And so many people just don't really know about them. So it'd be great to try to hopefully get them some shine, so to speak.
It's a great idiom, just nobody's done a documentary yet about this specific thing. And I
Right.
think people are going to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping.
I'm excited about it, man. I'm certainly psyched about it.
Well, thanks, man.
Cool.
Can't wait to show the world.
Well, shit, Doug, man, it was great talking to you. Thanks for swinging by, man. I'm going to go have myself a beer to do a little hair of the dog because I'm in amidst a vacation here, and it always gets a little sloppy around this time. So I'm going to go take care of myself.
All right.
But good talking to you, man.
Thanks for having me, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for more of these New Orleans Drummer Series episodes. Always great talking to guys that influenced me growing up, and no shortage of great storytellers to boot. So we'll catch you on the flippy floppy. Crash, bang, boom!